Oh boy. Hey guys. Uh oh boy. I just did the new video and then at the end once again I just fucking ran my mouse and said something inappropriate. And for any longtime viewers, you know that I'm not very afraid of swearing. However, I just said something complete totes innapropes, and so I'm making the video again, which is fine because we ran through the puzzles quite quickly. And after we ran through the puzzles quite quickly, I realized some things that are invaluable skills that have been helping me recently in my games that I didn't really focus on. And so redoing the video, I think, is a fine price to pay, and I think the payoff is really good. So I don't mind doing it. I'm just regretting what I said, which thankfully nobody will ever hear online. So what is the skill specifically that have been helping me in my games? So generally on lead chess, I average around 1350, I'd say 1300 if I'm being low on myself. But recently, I've been holding steady. I'm peaking at 1500 right now, and that's not that, you know, what's the word? Exciting, because I've been up to 16 before, but I think I'm doing better at my 1450 games just because of the skill of calculation that it has been improving as I've been talking my way through these puzzles with you guys. So it's all thanks to these videos and approaching these puzzles from the view of explaining not to just myself but to others. And I think as there's some kind of saying that goes, if you want to learn something better, you teach it and then you will whatever. But that's kind of what's happening. As I explain these puzzles, I'm kind of embedding the logic better into my mind. So, even if these puzzles may be easy today, I want to try and take my time and explain them. So, I hope you will bear with me as I take it slow and take it easy and kind of lead you through the puzzles. Uh, what else did I talk about? And I talked about how recently, after my 16 out of 20, but let's be real, 15 out of 20 on last uh, my last chess improvement video with forks, I did some more fork puzzles using the Chess Kings app that I've showed you guys before. And those are very, very easy fork puzzles, obvious fork puzzles. And I think that might have helped today a bit because I'm seeing the forks a little bit better. And finally, as a last piece of addendum here, I just did 20 puzzles and did 19 out of 20. That doesn't really matter. But what does matter is that 20 of those or 19 of those puzzles are not going to be in this set because we just reset our set, our custom fork set, so that we are only going to get puzzles that we have not done so far up to this date. We might get some dupes from within this set today, but hopefully not. With all that out of the way, let's start the video all over again. God fucking damn it. Me and my stupid, stupid mouth. I'm honestly not this bad in real life. However, when it comes to the video, there's just no filter. I have to fill up airtime and, do I say some really stupid things. But yeah, here we go. Forks today. So in this puzzle, there is a royal fork possible between the rook and the king. However, the knight is defending that g6 square. So what we can do is take that knight, and if the king tries to take that rook on e7 after the rook takes, then once again we'll have a royal fork. So basically this knight is undefended and free. If king takes, we'll trade, and then I will be up 4 material points. this baby's probably gonna get what's the word? Promoted? Jeez. Yeah, so this pawn's probably gonna get promoted, and then that's gonna be a checkmate game. So yeah, that's the first puzzle. Alright, second puzzle. Let's do this. Okay, so we have a potential royal fork here. Knight on e7 would royal fork the king on g8 and the queen on c6. So what can we do? We can move this queen out of the way, and since we know if the king doesn't move next turn, that royal fork is coming where we'll get that queen, we can just move the queen to take this knight without any worry about the pawn taking. If the pawn does take, then similar to last puzzle, after the royal fork, we will be up a minor piece, and they would have double pawns, and their pawn position on the queen side doesn't look that great either, and our knight would be there, so we can probably take some of these pieces, and that will be good. Alright, 2 out of 2. And I'm doing a much better job of explaining at this point, so fuck yeah. Okay, we're black in this situation. Let's see what we've got. Rook is looking at our queen on c8. That's very sad. She wants to move away. What are some potentials that we have? I mean, something beautiful we have is knight can just take that rook right now, and we're looking at that queen. So queen has to move somewhere, and then we can move our queen. Is there any fancy things that can happen with the rook and the knight? Potentially on knight takes rook on f1, rook may take knight on f1 as well, which would be pretty awesome. These two pieces on the edge definitely make me take a pause, because I feel like there's something there that we want to think about. For instance, if this rook stays on c1, what does knight to c6 offer for white? e7, but e7 is fairly well guarded by the bishop. Of course, pawn takes, and then the pawn is just one slick move away from becoming supremely dangerous. Although I guess we have the bishop looking at e8, so it can never be that dangerous. What about queen takes queen? Where does that lead us? Queen takes queen, rook takes queen. Do we have some kind of fork from that situation? No, I don't think so. No, it doesn't look like there would be any intriguing forks there. So the knight takes rook looks pretty good. If we do knight takes rook, rook takes queen, knight takes queen, rook takes rook. Oh, actually, that can't happen because after knight takes queen, that's a check, so the king has to move, or the knight has to get taken, at which point we can just take with the rook and we'd be up fair bit of stuff. So they can't just let that knight hang out for too long. So like if knight takes rook and queen moves somewhere, I'm trying to think of a good place for the queen. Maybe like queen to e1. Knight takes queen to e1. Then queen can just take rook. Wait, why would I do that? That's insane. That's an insane that's an insane person thought. Forget that thought. We can potentially do maybe something like queen to d6, attacking both the pawn on f6, which is a very important pawn, as well as the knight on b5. That looks pretty good. So that knight takes rook idea looks really good. The only reason I'm hesitating, however, is that this is supposed to be something to do with forks, and the only fork that I see is my final move of moving the queen to d8, which I don't think that's what this puzzle is gambling on. potentially, here's another idea. The queen moving somewhere to threaten this knight on a5, as well as some kind of either royal fork or some kind of dangerous mating idea. Another question I have is, what happens on rook takes pawn? Rook takes pawn, rook takes queen. Nothing good. Nothing good. So yeah, knight takes rook looks really strong. Just because even if it's just a simple trade of knight takes rook, rook takes knight, yeah, we're up a little bit of material, and I still get this nice little move here with the queen to d8, which looks pretty damn good as well. This also looks so suspiciously close to being able to do a what is it called? A smothered mate. Very close, but not, the queen is not in the right place to do so. Knight could move to g4, but after rook takes queen, the knight is undefended, so he better have a damn good move, which he does not. He does not have a damn good move after that. So knight takes rook is very much my favorite candidate move, unless I can find a checkmate of some sort. Does the bishop do anything? I don't know. No. I really don't see it. I almost like the position for all of my pieces, but, I mean, minus this bishop who kind of has a backdoor duty, which is fine. But yeah, I don't see the fork in all of this at all. Yeah, I really want to just go with that knight takes rook idea. Yeah, even though I don't see a fork, I think I'm just going to go with that. That is so far the best idea I've had. So let's just go with it. And it's right, but I don't know why. Fork double attack. Where's the fork double attack? Counting. Let's look at what the computer has to say. Computer, please tell us why. Oh, it started with a fork. Okay. This is it. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, well, whatever. I mean, we figured it out. There was a fork. There can be a fork, but that's a weak puzzle. I'd say that's a weak one. Oh, and I forgot to add to the addendum that I did 20 puzzles of forks, and it was fairly fast. So the other thing is, we're gonna try for 25 right now instead of just 20, because 20 was just too short. Okay. So, first thing I see is if queen moves to b1, that's not only a check right here. That's not only a check on the king, but I could potentially get that rook as well. However, the queen is there right now defending the rook, so we probably want to get rid of her before we do anything silly like that. There is also a bishop looking at my bishop, so that's hard. Another cool thing about queen to b1 is that king is forced to move to h2. Bishop takes bishop, rook takes bishop. That's not great. I mean, that's fine for them. Lol. There's definitely something there. But I'm not quite sure what it is. With rook to b1, king... if the king doesn't want to move, the rook can move to e1, and he's defended by the queen on e6, so he's okay. So queen to b1, although it started off promising, maybe not as promising as we thought it was. So what is the trick that we want to do here? So let's say bishop takes bishop. Then rook takes bishop on f4. Is there a way at that point to do some kind of devious move to double attack and get the bishop where I'm in the rook? Yes. Okay. So here's the idea. Bishop takes bishop, rook takes bishop, queen to c1 instead of b1 now, so over here. Still a check. Rook is now on f4, so only the queen can come to defend, which would be terrible because queen takes queen. So king has to move to h2. Well, that's fine because now we get the rook. So after bishop takes bishop, rook should not take bishop because that's bad. Excellent. Okay, 4 out of 4. We're doing fine. I haven't said anything embarrassingly gross. This one's fairly easy. There's a potential for a royal fork right now with the king and whatever piece is on g5. So we can trade once. If the rook takes, because he's the only defender, then we'd be able to royal fork. So even if they lose the bishop, they probably shouldn't. I never remember if you're supposed to or not, but I would say don't, because you don't want to trade down when you're down a piece like this, or you're going to be down a piece. Oh, actually, there's a couple of other moves that has to happen, because I didn't even realize that f7 is defended. Thankfully, there's this. But I've lost tempo. So how did that actually work? I got it right, but that's not actually the right answer. That's the wrong reason for the right answer. So let's see how this calculation goes. If this happened, how does this go? Interesting. So it goes like that. Okay. 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 So there is a not necessarily good trade that has to happen to deal with the potential fork that was going to happen. Interesting. Yeah, these queen moves are a little bit silent and slow, but deadly indeed. So if that happens, the right move is queen here, huh? Putting pressure on the knight. The knight could fall back. What happens then? Then I just get that. And I guard. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So I had the right idea, but I missed a defender, and that can cost you games. That can cost you huge games. So I wouldn't say that's the right one. I wouldn't say I'm at 9 out of 9 or whatever the fuck I was at. And now I'm just swearing to overcompensate for the completely inappropriate thing I said earlier. Not good. Not good. Okay, where are we? In this situation, the only piece guarding that knight on e5 that he has, that he just moved, is the queen. But that's not a good defender, because our queen can take, and if his queen takes, we have a delicious fork with our knight, again, on f3. And then check. King takes bishop, and then we can take the queen. And we'd be up by one major piece. If it was minor piece for minor piece in this open scenario with just a bishop versus a knight, I probably wouldn't do this. But since we do have a rook here, that's totes fine. So there, a little bit of material counting was necessary, and I'm sure one of the tags for that would have been material counting. Okay, cool. So right now we have a potential royal fork with a knight on e3. However, we're pinned by this rook. That being said, this bishop is only defended by this rook, so if I take this bishop with my rook on c4, or my rook is on c5, but take the bishop on c4, and rook takes rook on c4, then we still have that royal fork, and we'd be up by a minor piece, and equal on the pawns, and this pawn is just running home. Gonna get promoted. So 7 out of 7. Not even close to 9 out of 9. What was I thinking? Okay, black just moved, so it's white's turn. The thought would be that if my king is to take the knight, then this pawn can run home. However, it's not true. I have plenty of time to take the knight. Even on pawn to e2, there is knight to d4 with a royal fork. And so I can safely take that knight, and it's delicious. Right on, right on. So some dubious things happening with the queen there. His queen to a8 would be dangerous, but not a checkmate, since we'd have knight to b8 to block that. But queen to a6, king would have to move out, rook has to come out. It's a little dangerous. It's a little frisky, as I would say. Some frisk would be involved. But is it worth getting a free rook out of all of this? Especially since there wouldn't be a rook d1 to scare my king. There could be queen, but yeah, I mean that could be good. That could definitely be good. The rook on f8 that I have is attacking this pawn on f3. So potentially, if I move my queen somewhere, I could somehow be aggressive. But the coordination between these pieces is decent, except for the rook being weak right now. I really want to take that rook. Really, really I do. I really, really do. I think taking that rook for taking a slightly compromised position with my king outside is totally worth it. Especially because I don't see a lot of quick ways to punish my king for being out in the open after all of that happens. And what with my queen being on e1, there's a bit of control that I actually have in all of this as well. And I'm one move away from gaining tempo again, putting pressure on his king. So that is très intéressant. I don't think that's the correct terminology for saying it's interesting. Very interesting in French. There is a potential discovered attack with the knight to f6 on the queen, but again, queen has a8 as a tempo maker. So that's, I don't think that's it. Also, my queen taking the rook on e1 doesn't necessarily seem like it's utilizing a fork or a double attack, nor setting up for some kind of double attack either. So I'm not quite sure where that leads after that, because none of that looks like a double attack. But let's not forget that even if a problem started with a double attack, that's good enough for the tagging system here. However, the queen being on f7 is not necessarily any kind of double attack that she ran out of. She just had to run. It doesn't look like there was much of a double attack going on. Not a lot of places for the knight to go for any kind of double attacks. And I guess actually if the knight does move, then this bishop on e5 would be undefended. So that's no good. Yeah, queen takes rook looks really good, even if it's not a double attack. I would be willing to compromise a little bit of my safety for a rook, especially while everything else is defended and coordinated fairly darn well. I would be willing to take that risk. So let's just calculate through that and see where that leads us. Queen takes rook e1, queen to a8 check, knight to b8, queen to a6 check, uh, king to d7, queen out at d3 check. King can always move back. Perpetual there. Oh, actually, queen can't even go to a6. What the hell am I thinking? Knight on b8 means that if queen goes to... wow, this is looking really good. Yeah, I don't see the double attack, but I'm just going to take. Okay. Yeah, I didn't see the double attack. Let's see what the computer sees that I don't see. Oh, why does the computer have to use this? Do I have to change the board settings on this? Oh, that's another thing we did in the other video, the innapropes video, is we changed the board and how it looks and the things we use. But okay, whatever. So if that happens, what happens afterwards? Why? Where is this double attack that you're so worried about? So this was the bad line. Psst, that's not exciting. Wait, so... where's the double attack? Let's say he makes an innocuous move. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't see the double attack. I think I'm blind. That's very interesting. Why are we doing this? That's checkmate. Huh. Yeah. My choice was right. However, I don't understand how this was a double attack. This is just like a tutorial on what double attacks are. Okay. We'll move on. Potential double attack that I see is rook to e8 or rook to e7, royal double attack on the king and the queen. That would be sweet. However, this bishop makes it a little hard to do that. There's a little bishop that's getting in our way. So what can we do about it? What can we do about it? I don't know. I don't know. There's queen to a5 with a check here. But the king can easily just maneuver one down, or it can even block with b7. And then the queen has to run away again, so that's not that great. So what about rook takes bishop? Rook takes bishop d6. King takes rook d6. We would have queen to b4 check. Let's say king moves to d7. Oh, can't move to d7 because of the bishop. So has to move back to c7, at which point, because of the diagonal, we can do the royal fork afterwards. Alright. I hope that made sense. Let me go over it again. Or I guess just show it to you guys. So if this happens, then this can happen. Well, then this is just terribly fucked, actually. That's, in fact, that might be checkmate, yeah. So don't do that. Do this. But then if you do that, there's this. So, yeah. And, you know, I'm okay with taking that. Oh, he has to move, huh? Run away. Run away. I'm a greedy cuss. I'll take some pawns. Do it this way. Sure. Gotta be careful not to get trapped myself. La 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 la. That's a bad way to get trapped. Yeah, this is actually kind of a dangerous scenario. A dangerous scenario, but I think we're okay. Yeah, I think we'd be fairly okay. So, I think that was 9 out of 9. Neat. Let's see if we can do some more of these forks. King is diagonal to my knight. That is a very, very bad place to be, especially because there are two ways of attacking him with my knight, neither of which look promising currently. And especially since I would want, for this double attack or fork, I would want something on c1, or for this one, I would want something on b3 or d6, but yeah, that doesn't look like we have that yet. So yeah, I mean, we have queen takes knight, king can't take because it's defended by the knight, so queen takes. Nothing great about that. There's potentially queen to... There's queen to f3. There is queen to f3, isn't there? That's really good. So the idea is that I would be double attacking. It would be a royal fork on the king as well as the rook. If the queen is forced to move, that would be stupendous. So we just have to find a way. I'm thinking that if we continue the calculation of queen to f3, we can find out why we can actually make that work. Why the queen coming to d3 is mandatory. So let's think about this. Queen to f3. King to d2. Interesting. King to d2. Is there something good? Is there something good there? We can potentially move knight to b3 or knight to f3. For a check. Jesus. Scheduled time today at 11:03. But it's 10:43. I'm gonna push this back a little bit more, I guess. 11:55. Yeah. Okay. Pick a day. Actually, let's just do tomorrow at like 3 p.m. while I'm at work. That sounds good. What do I care? Yeah, do it then. Huh. Okay, so going back to the puzzle. Queen to f3, king to d2. Let's start with knight to b3. Check. King can't go to c1, so that means he has to go to e1 because of all the squares that the queen is controlling. King to e1. Oh god, then queen takes rook. King has to move and then queen takes... Oh, Jesus. Okay, so... Yeah, that's not great. In fact... Yeah. D2 is the only place he can go. I guess we can try it from the other side, but I think knight to b3 is the winning way to go. I don't really care about trying the other side. Well, let's say the king is on... Oh, knight can't even try the other side because the queen's going to be there. Lol, 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 lol. So yes, this is the right move. This does lose a rook, and then we trade queens, which would be quite terrible for him. So I think that's it. Oh god, it was wrong. It was wrong. Oh, and I see, because this is even better. Yes, 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 yes. I mean, there's that as well, but then that's... Oh, okay. So we had a good idea of the method of by which this would happen. However, this way of taking is just much more efficient. We are up literally one rook. Whereas I think the way that I played it out could probably end up just even, maybe? Let's see here. If I do this... I'm an idiot. I'm a big idiot. I deserve that loss. Wow. I just got too narrowly focused on one line, and oh boy, I did not see an obvious move. So yeah, still learning. Still a lot of things to learn. I'm still a basic bitch. That's what I am. Okay, so this one is... I think chess tempo is feeling sorry for me. This one's fairly obvious. Queen takes rook. And then what? You say, well, queen can't take queen because then there's a royal fork. But I think queen has to take queen. I guess queen can move out of the way. Not really, no. Queen kind of has to take. So that's pretty good. Pretty good. Alright. Okay. Oh, yes. There is a delicious, delicious fork here. Knight to f6 for a royal fork on 3 pieces. However, f6 currently is defended. Quite nicely defended. That means we have to defend the knight while taking this bishop. If rook takes, bishop c3 and pawn takes, then we have the royal fork and we get a queen, and then the pawn tries to go, queen takes, no issues. Bishop's also controlling c1, so no issues. If rook takes and queen takes queen, then rook takes queen, and we're just up a minor piece. Whee! Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Squeezy. Okay, this is a nice attack on my queen with a knight here. Bishop can take this though, and I think the only defense after bishop takes is... Oh boy, I honestly don't know. Black is not in a good situation because after bishop takes, there's queen takes f7, which is... that's god-awful for the king. That seems like a terrible place to be. I'm very close to some kind of dangerous little thing like bishop to h6 and then boop, checkmate. Meanwhile, there's also the rook that can be taken. What did the bishop take? The bishop... Knight, I mean. The knight didn't take anything. So yeah, this bishop move looks really good. That's just super strong. And then if this is the defense to it, that's not that great either. Because after something, boy, I mean after something like this, we're still up a minor piece, but that is like the most basic trade thing that we can do. There's still a lot that can be potentially done with this. I was going to say it'd be nice to be able to do this, but there's a checkmate after that, so we can't do that. But after we open it up, there potentially could be. So we definitely, after the bishop moves here, we would have to force this line. That's decent. That's decent. It's not great. There's that as well. We could do something like that. This is tricky. Definitely tricky. So we gotta be careful. A lot of attackers on here. So actually, I wonder what the right way to do all of this is. That's very interesting. Because, yeah, bishop going to e6 looks pretty good. Maybe I'm missing something. Yeah. Was that the right move? Oh, that was the right move. Oh, I feel quite happy about that. So, yeah, why is this not superb? Oh, I see. That's the move I was missing. Bishop back to f3, defending that rook. Then we can add some defenders there. Rook can't easily coordinate with other pieces on the d file. Trying to do some interesting things over here. What does this lead to? Okay. Now that the rooks are coordinated, this is no problem. Okay. Very interesting. Cool. So let's move on to the next one. What's going on here, guys? Rook takes rook. Queen takes rook. F7. Doesn't look great. Doesn't look great. What about rook takes knight? D7. Rook takes rook. Queen to e8 with the check. And then queen takes rook. That looks pretty good. So, yeah. I think rook definitely doesn't want to take here. I guess the best way to do this would be potentially something like that. Forcing a trade, but it's still bad news bears, especially with this pawn. Good lord. This pawn is dangerous. Good lord. So yeah, with the major piece and the minor piece, we can probably get that pawn promoted fairly quickly. Oh god, and then a real fork. So yeah, that was played badly by me, but we got the answer right. That's awesome. That's super good. So the white queen on h3 looks very, very close to being trapped. I'm hungry for a queen here, but nothing definitive quite yet. The knight doesn't have an opportunity for a royal fork. Does he have an opportunity for any forks? I don't know where the knight was. I'm just gonna, whoop, okay. Knight was there. He can take that bishop, which would stop the queen from being able to do any kind of tricky bishop and queen checkmate in my back ranks, which is great. Queen can't take the bishop because it's defended twice by the queen and the pawn. Not that I would really want to. There is an interesting trade with bishop takes pawn, bishop takes bishop, c4, queen takes knight on d2, but, oh no, I can't because there is a bishop also there. So it'd be like bishop takes bishop, I guess the bishop takes pawn can't even be met with bishop takes bishop because there's rook takes bishop as well. So these pieces, although they look coordinated, they're a little weak. They're a little weak. Like knight takes bishop, queen takes knight, bishop takes pawn. Things are getting a little frantic, but I don't see a double attack quite yet. Boop, 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 boop. There is a delicious pin for bishop, for my dark square bishop to go to c3, but I would be undoing a lot of the defense I have in case of the slimy queen checkmate thing going on. But yeah, this pin could only be defended by either rook, e rook to d1 or b rook to d1. Where does that leave us? I don't know. Not exactly sure. Doesn't look as promising as I thought it did. If we controlled this diagonal with the queen and my dark squared bishop, then this could be some kind of potential attack, but there doesn't seem to be anything like that there. Yeah, double attack. Forky fork. Don't see the fork. The forky fork. I could potentially move my knight over to d4. Nothing really stands out to me after that, though. Any of the places he can go are fairly well defended on white's side. So that doesn't seem like the answer. I'm getting tired. I'm tired. There is potentially an interesting thing going on with knight takes bishop, queen takes bishop, or knight takes bishop, queen takes knight c h6, then bishop to g7, queen can't move here, queen can't move here because of my queen, so queen would have to go back to h3, which is fine. It's not bad. It's not terrible. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, I don't see it. There's also something that we kind of have to be careful of, which is bishop takes knight, pawn takes knight, rook takes rook, queen takes rook, which isn't terrible, but that is interesting. It is interesting. This one is a bit trickier. Oh boy. You know, when I was thinking about bishop takes, I first didn't see this rook defending or attacking, but I also didn't see this knight. So bishop takes can actually be met with that. No, it can't, because then I can take the knight. Oh, that's a tricky situation. That's a tricky situation. Uh, Bishop takes pawn. Knight can take first. Rook takes. Bishop takes. That would be fine. Having a hard time figuring this out. And actually the bishop can take, because I forgot once again that the bishop is, the dark squared bishop on white's side is defending that d2 square. So definitely my brain is starting to frazzle and unravel. No dizzle, no doubt. No diggity. But I still don't see the proper attack for this. Christ. Interesting. Yeah, I am really not sure what the answer to this puzzle is. And I'm guessing the queen moved from g4 to h3 to defend that bishop. Questionable. Very questionable. Do I get anything for moving the queen to d4? No, I don't think so. No. I could try very hard to remove my, maneuver my light squared bishop to somehow do the fatal blow to the queen that's slightly trapped, but I don't think there is anything like that either. Yeah. I am very tired now and poop out of ideas. Getting to 25 at this point seems Herculean of a task. Where is the double attack in this? I don't know. Do not know. I honestly don't even see a candidate move that I like in this situation. Very, very interesting. I would be very interested to see what the correct move is in this thing. I think perhaps I'll just go with my gut instinct of the move that I would like to make, which is removing this bishop. But yeah, I don't necessarily see where that leads after that. Oh, great. That was right. I have no idea why that was right. Extra 2. Queen takes h6. Yes, great. But then what happens afterwards? Let's take a look at the... Let's take a look here. Okay. I see. I didn't think about the coordination between that bishop and the queen there. That is the double attack, and that is what I missed. And I still got the puzzle right, which doesn't count, so we're at like 13 out of 16 actually. Oh, that was a tough one. And I'm not sure if it's because I'm tired or if it's because... I think it's mostly because I'm tired. But also, that was a tricky little maneuver, and I liked it. That was very intense. This one, a lot easier. Rook takes bishop. If pawn takes rook, if there is a turn that's used for that, also undefending d3, knight goes to d3, royal fork, yada yada yada. So pawn actually shouldn't take that rook because then you're going to lose a queen. Okay. That was a simple one. We are white in the situation. What are we trying to do here? Let's take account of things. Queen to f7 would be pretty neat, but there's a queen defending, so that's like a so what. So we can take this rook. Does that benefit us? 9. It does not benefit us. Maybe I should calculate it out though. Rook takes rook. Pawn takes... Goodness, I said rook. I've been saying rook for a while, haven't I? Knight takes knight. Pawn takes knight, e4. Queen can't take, defended by bishop. I don't see anything promising after that. There is nothing promising. Nothing. Nothing very good. What are some potentials that we have? Tricky. Tricky, tricky, tricky. No forks with the knight. Fork with the queen would be nice, however that queen is a staunch defender. Potential ways that we could have a royal fork at the end would be queen on d5 if bishop wasn't on, queen on d5 here, if bishop wasn't on b7, but even then the rook is connected with the queen, so no big worries there. Knight takes knight e4, pawn takes knight. I don't see anything great from that. No, no, no. No, no, no. There is potentially rook to b5. Queen goes to take, then I have queen to queen to f7. Wow, my brain is just fucked. King to h8. Then I can take the knight. Interesting. Interesting. So queen doesn't take, then I can take c7, a fork on the rook and the queen, but I think that comes a little bit too slow. I don't think that's the answer they're looking for. Is there maybe some kind of bishop play we can do with our dark square bishop on c1? Nothing stands out to me immediately in that sense either. So this pawn moved because there was another defender for this pawn. Yeah, yeah. Knight doesn't have a lot of good places to go. Yeah. This is very tricky. And we're looking for double attacks, are we? Keep looking at these knights, but I don't really see anything. Knight takes knight, pawn takes knight e4. Queen to e3. Pawn takes, pawn takes. No, it doesn't seem strong. It does not seem strong. I got it! Yay! Knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, queen to b3. Double attack on the king and the bishop that's not guarded. There we go. That took me a little while, but I finally got it. Holy fuck! I must be tired. I don't know how many puzzles we've done either. Definitely lost steam in the past couple of minutes. That is no joke. Okay, why can't I just take that knight? That knight looks really, really tasty. That knight looks super scrumptious right now. Interesting. There must be a reason why. There must be a reason why. I don't know what it is, though. That just looks straight up like an undefended knight. So queen takes knight. Like, why not? Queen takes knight looks super good. Why the fuck not? So if queen takes knight, if queen goes num num num, there's bishop takes, knight takes, queen check, rook down, because queen's defending from g5, take, that. And he's down 2 pieces at this point. And we have all the pieces. If queen takes, bishop to c2, eyeing for this one. Actually, this is defending fairly well from f8. I never realized a knight on f8 could be such a great defender. Holy Jesus. I mean, g7 isn't good, but you can always push that, so that looks pretty damn good. That looks pretty damn good. Good. Am I trapped if I go for it? Queen takes. Pawn comes down. I can always move back here if I want. I want to take that knight. Why won't you let me take that knight? I guess queen takes. There's bishop? Oh, rook goes down. He's feeling good. Rook could also go to e7. No. d8 makes a lot more sense. Caramba. I mean, let's think of other candidate moves, because I can't, for the life of me, see why the queen taking the knight would not be good. But I must be missing something really, really obvious, like a checkmate, and very soon. Queen takes, queen to a8, knight comes down. So very confused. Other moves that I would think about, knight to f5. Rook has to move. Isn't that great? I don't know. There's rook takes d4. Free pawn. Queen has to move. Queen has flight squares, though. I'm just going to take that knight, because I have no idea. Yeah. Okay. Hanging piece. Oh, they're definitely right about that. I don't see where the double fork is, though. Like, what is the continuation of this line? This just looks really good for me, right? Let's say they do a stupid move. Okay. I see. Interesting. Okay. Take. What? Get out of that. Move there. Take that. Take this. Lol. Oh, right. Huh. Weird. Yeah, didn't see the double attack. There must be one in here somewhere that I didn't see. Maybe in the best moves, if we follow along, there might be one. Okay, so it goes there. And there's kind of a double attack going on. Defense es necesario. Interesting. Que interesante. We're at 18 out of 19. Wow, we flew through some of these. Okay, cool. Well, this one's easy. Queen takes knight. Queen takes queen. Knight takes bishop with the royal fork, and that would be bad. So we can freely take this queen or take this knight. If bishop tries to take that, then we take back with the queen, so that's also good. Everything's coming up Millhouse. Okay, and we're trying to get to 25. 25! Okay, so we have a bishop looking at d7. We have a rook looking at d7. We have all sorts of good stuff, potentially. But how do we make this work? How do we make this work so that we have some pieces at the end? Because right now there are basically two defenders. So we take with the bishop first, knight will come. We take with the rook, king will take. Then we have a royal fork. Ah, here it is. So we go in for the fork right now. And yes, I know b6 is defended. However, if the rook takes, then bishop takes, but then rook or said rook again. If knight takes b6, then knight takes b6, bishop can take rook, but then knight can take c. So that is not correct. Do we dare push the rook in first? Let's try that. Rook takes knight, knight takes knight, or knight takes rook, bishop takes knight, king takes. Yeah, I don't quite get this one, because in the end it just seems like everybody's just trading down haphazardly. Da 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 da, meow, ba ba ba. I mean, there are other potential gains in this situation as well, right? If we think about the fact that sacrificing this knight for a knight here, we take back, knight takes, the rook can then take f7. Our queen side is weak, but our rook can then play some shenanigan-y games. First, the knight has to move somewhere now. Potentially like d7. Then we can keep on going to try and take these pawns down. These pawns are quick, but maybe my king could do something. I don't know. That's an iffy proposition. Iffy at best. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We have 3. So 6 versus 6 pawns. Ours, yeah, I'm not comfortable with my queenside defense there, so tricky. 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 At first, it looks like a beautiful royal fork, but with these two knights, it's not great. It's not great. Huh. Not a lot of places for my knight to move either. The real question is, actually, yeah, the trade just looks bad. Bishop takes, knight takes, rook takes, king takes. All on d7, then knight takes on b6. We're up a pawn. King has to move. Let's say to c7. Rook or knight takes. Rook on c8. King takes knight on c8. King to d3, trying to push that queen pawn. That's a pass pawn now. That b file pawn. Oof, that's asking a lot. You are asking for quite a lot. Rook takes, knight takes, bishop takes, king takes. Same thing. Knight takes b6, knight takes knight b6, rook takes f7, knight to d7. Oh, okay. So the idea is knight takes. If knight takes, we get another pawn. We're 2 pawns now, and we're gonna win this knight because it can at this point only go to the 7th row, and if he goes to d7, then it's gonna be nasty. taken. If he goes to g7, then he'll take that way. This is still sketch to me, but king can get to c1, block it. Yeah, I'll take that. Ooh, try again. That's not it. Sure. Okay. I don't get it. I don't get it. Please teach me, computer. I don't get it. Okay. So we start here. What stops this? Why is this not a thing? Okay. And this is somehow better for me? Jesus. This requires like some heavy endgame calculation then? Okay. Huh. I guess my pawns were just in a better position. There was a kind of a zugzwang situation there. Interesting. I guess I underestimated how powerful my pawn position was in this line. Huh. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. All the way down there, huh? That seems weird. Okay. Too many pawns. Alright, so I guess the whole idea of trading down was correct. Even though it's 6 pawns to 6, in the end I had the better pawn position. There is honestly no way I would have gotten that. Yeah, that's, oof, that's, yeah. No, that's too much for me. Definitely endgame is something we'll get to at some point, so that's important. That's very important. Crazy, too. Okay. So this looks fairly easy. The thing to do here is take the knight. If bishop takes knight, basically the reason we're taking the knight is queen takes or bishop takes, it doesn't matter. The f3 square becomes undefended, at which point this rook on d1 and the king on h1 are now in a fork attack. So that's great. 21 out of 22. But it's really 20 out of 22. Let's not forget that I didn't really understand a lot of these puzzles today, or some of these puzzles today. Okay. So, in this situation, the d2 square is only defended by the queen. If we take this knight and the queen takes, then we can do a royal fork on that queen. So she should not take that rook. Because I can show you guys what would happen. There you go. And then, God, it's another fork. Oh, Lord. So yeah, that would be terrible if the queen took there. So don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. What? Oh, I guess the idea here is that if I take that bishop, then the rook takes my bishop. Fair. That's fair. But my queen getting to this side is super dangerous, especially since I have queen to g4 afterwards, where I would be able to royal fork between the king and the rook. So yeah, I'll gladly take this. I think opening up more space while the queens are still on board is it's a dangerous thing. You gotta think carefully about those kind of things. Okay, white is pushing against my knight, so what do I do? What do I do? Excuse me. Excuse me again. I could take knight with knight. And then pawn takes knight d5. Nothing special there. The active pieces I have controlled are my rook and my knight here. I don't really see a lot of potential openings. My rook on d8 is kind of stuck because of his light squared bishop, which has a beautiful diagonal here. Oof. Beautiful diagonal. Interesting. Oh, I see something. So something very interesting I see here is there's potentially pawn attacking both of these and then me taking that bishop. But the danger there is that pawn here, queen takes, one move away from checkmate. So, but I guess there's always a rook to g8 to stop that from happening. But at some point, this knight will also get taken. So, even if we do this, let's say pawn to g4, queen takes pawn. Let's say rook takes, just to put pressure here, and this rook is pinned. So rook takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, checkmate. Lol. So actually, sorry, pawn to g4, queen takes, rook to g4, that happens, then that happens, that. It's not that great. It ain't that great. So, knight takes knight first. Knight takes knight, pawn takes, d5. I mean, what would be really good right now is if the rook was on g8. That'd be really good. Because then the pawn double attack would be sick as fuck. I mean, potentially there's like knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, then there's that. But that's a little slow. And I don't think that's what we're looking for. How are we on material? He has two major pieces and 3 minor pieces. We have 3 major pieces. Oh, okay. You know, maybe the knight takes knight isn't that bad. Knight takes knight, pawn takes knight. Then we can move rook to g8. Queen, maybe bishop moves to g4. Because that trade, actually just knight takes knight, and then abruptly doing that, queen has to move somewhere, and then trading down even more seems pretty good. Is that the idea? Zwischenzug. There are some in-between moves. Extra. E takes d5. Extra g4. Extra queen to d4. Queen to d4? What the fuck? So instead of e takes g5, queen to d4, d3. Queen to d3. What? Okay. That looks pretty good. Doesn't look bad. Let's see what the computer has to say. So the whole idea here for me was just trading down. If this were to happen, then I can force this move, do that. Then we're just trading down even further. And yeah, I mean, I am in a happy little spot right now. Also, how did I end up with an extra piece? What happened there? Oh, it's because of the rook moving and oh yeah. So that's quite good. So yeah, I guess the double attack was the bloop. So that's great. I'm also curious about this line, but I don't care enough. I'm really tired. Oh, and that was 25. So I got like 2 wrong today, or 1 more wrong than this. So I'm actually, I would say there were some, like at least 2 or 3 puzzles I didn't really get. So I got like 22 out of 25, I think, or 21 out of 25. Let's get out the calculator. Actually, let's do it with our brains, because I'm not tired or anything. 20 out of 25 would be like an so what is 10 out of 25 would be 4, so 20 out of 25 is like 80%. 21 would be what? I don't know why I did it that way. That didn't help at all. Jesus. I'm so tired. Oh god. Yeah, it's like 80 some percent, I guess. Oh, I can't even do exact math. 21 divided by 25. 8. And that would be 20, and then 100. So that would be 4. 84%. Is that right? Let's see. 21 divided by 25. 84. Yay, I can math. And then 22 would be 88%. Cool. So I either got 84% or 88, which is better than the 16 out of 20 last time. So yeah, we're headed in the right direction. Or was it 15 out of 20? It wasn't good. It might have even been 14 out of 20. But I think 84% is definitely a lot better. So wow, the episode I did before this took a lot less time, and it was a lot faster, and I only got 1 wrong. This time, I would say I got about 3 wrong, so I was at 21 out of 25. And it took a lot longer, but it was good. It was a good little training session. So, as a final word for what I was talking about in the previous video, as my addendum at the end, is that called the addendum at the end? I guess so. Was discussing what kind of other stuff I'll be doing in these videos as we continue on. But really it came down to the idea that I'm going to keep on doing the pins and the forks a little bit longer before I get really sick of them, or until I feel very confident with them, at which point we will be adding another tactical motif. And the tactical motif that we will probably focus on when we get to that point is, there was one specifically that really stuck out to me. Interestingly enough, hanging pieces I feel like is just a great little thing for very, very early beginners. Just learning to spot hanging pieces and take them is great. Oh, but the one I really wanted to do was overloading. I think that is for starting, or not starting players, but like amateurs or tier 2 beginners, let's say. People who have been playing for a little bit aren't hanging their pieces. They're still overloading their pieces all the time, and I feel like that is a really good one to learn. Trap pieces, I think that happens a lot at my early levels as well. Zwischenzug, oh, I love Zwischenzugs, and learning to spot Zwischenzugs better is great. Interference, I think, is great as well. There's so many tactical motifs that we can get into that are so good, but I think for now, what we're gonna do is stick to pins, do some more forks, and then do some overloading when we get to the time. And I feel like there was something else. Distractions is also good. Double check is good. Desperado is good. Oof. Yeah, there's just a lot of great tactical motifs that we can look at. Yeah. That's it for me tonight. Sorry that it got really slow and tiresome at the end. Whew, that steam just escaped so fast. So fast when we were at like puzzle number 13 or 9 or whatever happened. But yeah, join me again next time. I promise I will have a bit more energy, and I will continue to try and explain the puzzles as best as I can, and we're just going to get better and better. I hope you guys are enjoying this, because I am. And if you like this video, don't click that like button. I don't give a fuck. And don't subscribe. Actually, if you guys want to subscribe, that's fine. If you want to click like, that's fine. But what I'd really appreciate more is, even if you're watching this from the archive and it's been like 6 years since I made this video, do leave a comment, because like if I was stupid or whatever, it's fun interacting with people, and as the content creator, I can see the comments anytime, and it's always good to see a notification for somebody saying something. If it's nice, excellent. If it's mean, that's cool too. It's the internet. I don't really care. But yeah, hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time if I don't go into a coma from sleep. Goodbye.